So my name is Jacques Poulin-Denis. Hi everybody. Bonjour tout le monde. Je m'appelle Jacques Poulin-Denis. And I am here to talk to you about what I do. So this is my company, Grand Poney. I come from a, I guess, interdisciplinary background. I've played music when I was a kid, and a lot of theater in high school. I grew up in Saskatchewan, where there was no professional dancing really at the time. So I moved to Montreal, to Quebec, to do my college and study dance there. So I studied dance in the college. I had a pretty severe accident at the end of these studies, which had forced me to stop dancing for a few years. So I turned back to theater, studied with a professor in California, Tom Bentley, for a few years, and then came back to Montreal for my studies at the University of Montreal in electroacoustic studies. So now I'm a composer and a performer, a choreographer. And I kind of blend all of these disciplines in the work that I create. Here are some of my... actually, I thought of presenting kind of an overall view of what I do, but I think I'll focus more on one specific piece, my most recent work, which is my most, I'd say, interdisciplinary project ever. So this is one of the previous pieces I've made, La Valeur des Choses, was a quartet for 4 men. It was about finance. So early on in my career, I was very interested in the mechanics of theater, how to create a piece and question where the audience is. I made pieces in the round where the performers and the spectators were all sharing the same space, and I'd say in the last few years I've been less interested in how to present work and more interested in what the work says. So I've turned more towards the topics, the dramaturgy of the piece. So I was interested in finance and post-apocalyptic, such as we were mentioning earlier. So my previous work, Very Gently Crumbling, was about also like a retro-futuristic place where these 4 girls were trying to reinvent themselves, and was a study on crumbling, basically. In all of my work, there's always a theatrical aspect, usually linked to text or to story, which is, I'd say, more theatrical than choreographic. There's also choreography. I like the abstraction that the body can create, and there's also always a very strong musical, obviously, component. So Running Piece is the last project that I've been working on. It's maybe 2 years in the making, if not more. What is it? Where are my notes? So the idea was to create an object where that would contraindre, constrict the choreographic or most of my creativity. So the concept was to use a treadmill. The idea came when I was working in a residency in Berlin. I was walking around in the evening listening to the music that was just the right song at the right moment, and suddenly, you've all experienced this, I'm sure, your life becomes a movie. The windows of the stores seemed like they were coming out of a set from a film, just because it was that right tune. And I was wondering, how can I transpose this to the stage? Where the music creates the emotion on a very simple action, which was simply walking around the street. So the idea was to use a treadmill. So I had this treadmill built, and what I liked about the idea was that suddenly there was no space I had to work with just this one fixed point. The treadmill is about 3 feet by 11. So the dancer is on this thing from the very get-go. So you're not, as a spectator, you're not looking at the stage, you're looking at this very one specific point. The movement is also very limited to moving forward or backward, but you're always en déplacement. So I like, as an interdisciplinary artist, to give myself very tight rules to work in. I forget what so here's a little video example of our very, very first residency. We had the machine built by, they make conveyor belts, this company. I gave them my desires. I'd like for it to go in both directions, to go to running speed, so about 15 kilometers an hour, blah, 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 blah. They made a thing, and we brought it into the studio and tried it out. So this was the first residency. I wanted to try all my ideas to see where we could go from there. This is Samuel Saint-Aubin Electronics Whiz. I'll get back to this. So there's a very surprising difficulty level of walking on this thing. It's not as easy as you would think. Without the bars that are on regular treadmill that give you a reference point, there are none. So you're always kind of in the void. I had the idea of syncing video background. And we blew a fuse at that point, actually. So, waltz. So I'll get back to Running Piece, the final version, which actually premiered last month. That's kind of why I wanted to talk about it, because it's the only thing that's been on my brain in the last 2 years. There was a kind of a side project that we developed with the treadmill as part of the celebrations for Montreal last year. I was invited to create a piece, an in situ installation at the Métro Place des Arts. It was, so the organizers, La Serre, had asked a different artist, every month a different artist would create a piece on a certain subject about our city and urbanism. My topic that was handed to me was mobility and déplacement, so transportation. So I had the idea of bringing my treadmill into the station. We worked with students from l'école de danse contemporaine de Montréal. So it became an installation, a 3-hour-long kind of a relay race, where they would actually combine a few ideas, a few projects into this one idea. So they would alternate, take turns to dance on the treadmill. I'll give you a bit more background. The whole thing was orchestrated, synchronized to the actual trains. So we set up. That's our machine for the performance. We're in the subway. I took this picture because I was on the rails in the station at 1 in the morning with permissions and all that, because we installed, this is Samuel again, these sensors that he built that had, they were optical and sonar and vibration basically they told us when the train was coming, when the train was arriving, when the train was leaving, and when the train was gone. And we synchronized the whole déroulement of the thing with the train. So when the train would be in the station, just like the passengers would get off and get on the train, we would that's when the really would happen. The treadmill had stopped, dancer would get off, the next dancer would come on and wait for the train, the actual train in the station to start, and then we'd go on for another loop. They were about 3 minutes, but it all depending on the actual train, if the train was late or what. And they would so perform these 3-minute basically sections. There were about 8 different tableaus. It was a cast of 20 dancers, so they would take time. There were different groups. It was a whole orchestration that lasted 3 hours. Which was wonderful because a lot of people, it was during rush hour, so a lot of people walked by.
particulière, dans cet instant précis, ne sera pour toute éternité plus jamais reproduit, plus jamais reproduit, plus jamais
That's what's great about working with dance students, is they're willing to do it, whatever the crazy idea, they'll be like, here's Emilie Wilson. I kept working with her. She's just a dynamite dancer, as you can see. So what else I want to say? The music, since you are all mostly composers and musicians, I created something that was very, very inspired by, or mostly inspired by the station. So for those of you from Montreal, you know this. Those who have not taken the metro yet, there's these 3 notes that the trains play before the doors close. Da, da, da. So a lot of the music I composed, it would start off with this these 3 notes, and I would adapt them and change the melody. Blah, 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 blah. So here you can sense the acceleration because the train is taking off, so the belt would start going up to a cruising speed. About 20 seconds for the trains to leave the station. Now he's gone, the train is out, and the solo has started. The person is doing their solo until the next train comes in, and then it would trigger the end of the music and this deceleration, arriving to the next station for the next snap out, for the next solo. This led to a trio, and then the final version was a solo for Manuel Roch, who you see on the picture here. And what I wanted to show most about where the piece ended, oh, sorry, I'm getting all confused, is lutherie is French for instrument making. So there's just one aspect that I wanted to share specifically is how I attempted to turn this device, the treadmill, into kind of like an all-encompassing storytelling machine. So I was mentioning the limitations that I wanted to work with. That propels solutions and propels me anyway to find the many possibilities that are already there within the device. So one thing that I was interested in working with was the steps of the dancer. So I had Samuel build these sensors that are in his shoes, connected to my computer, so that, and this is actually the most recent idea so it's not fully integrated yet, but I can show you a little bit how it works. This is actually my Ableton patch. I've connected one here. Is it on? So basically, when he takes a step, I get either so this is a wireless. Oh, is it on? Maybe I won't have to. Maybe I won't show it in detail, but sorry. Okay. Basically, it's kind of like an instrument that whenever he takes a step, it triggers a MIDI note, and so I composed a part for his feet, which changes as the piece evolves, basically. So he's playing this song without even knowing it or controlling it. He's just basically running on the treadmill, but it did allow me to make it a bit more interactive. The other component that we worked with is a Kinect camera, so an infrared camera that detects the position of the dancer on the treadmill. So this is we'll end with this, an excerpt from the piece. What we did was basically it's kind of like an x-axis or a potentiomètre, your slider. So it's mapped to the speed of the treadmill. When he's at this end, it's at 0. When he moves to the other end of the treadmill, it moves to 100% of the speed of the set speed. So basically, when he moves forward, the belt accelerates, always pushing him back to 0. So the image is like a man against machine. The more he moves forward, the more the machine brings him back to stop. I also map these parameters to sound, to some of the music, so that it's very interactive, the result. It's subtle at first, the stop and the acceleration. And it's simply mapped to a filter, a low-pass filter, and some other effects. But what was nice about this moment is that it really becomes a dance between him and the machine. Manuel was he's a very intelligent dancer and choreographer, so he was able to really develop a sensitivity with the momentum, the changing momentum of the treadmill. I wish I could fade this out, but I can't. So 3, 2, 1, achoo. Thank you very much. That's all the time I have.